What's up, world? Thanks for tuning in to this edition of the Point Blank Podcast. Point Blank explores news and updates in health, business, relationships, and more. The podcast also features guests that are transforming industries, challenging norms, serving as catalysts for momentum, and offering some fresh perspectives. I'm your host, Steve Blank Jr., and since 2016, I've leveraged the modern media landscape to help businesses and brands create more content and make more money. Need a new website? Ready to launch a podcast of your very own? Visit steveblankjr.com today to learn more about why some of my clients are calling me a complete game changer, verbatim. Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, and share on all of your favorite social and streaming platforms. Let's jump right in to the latest edition of the Point Blank Podcast.
What's going on? How are you? Where am I speaking to you from today? London, right?
Yes, I'm in London. And you're US, right?
In the US. I'm in Florida.
Oh, good morning then.
Yeah, absolutely. What time is it there?
It's now 2 p.m., so not too bad.
Okay, cool. Little midday podcast break.
Yeah, exactly. I also have my coffee, so we are sorted.
Very nice. That's quite the mug you got there.
It's a Harry Potter mug.
Oh, really?
Yes, I'm a Potterhead.
All right. Remind me, how did we hook up? Was it we connected on Threads, right?
Yeah. Actually, it was Threads, and I have to say, Threads has been very, very powerful in just making really cool, genuine connections. So I'm impressed. I should have gone back on it earlier than I did.
What else have you accomplished thanks to Threads?
So several podcast interviews, but also booking on guests, one guest expert session in someone else's mastermind, but also just genuine connections to talk about different things and making like some more, I kind of want to say like intimate connections where you share a little bit more vulnerably than just like, hey, how's your weekend? Yeah, nice. Thanks.
Yeah, it does feel a little more, it feels like old school internet in that sense. Like when the internet first came out, the interpersonal aspect of it, and to your point, the vulnerability, people were just, I think, a lot more genuine. They just happened to be communicating through a computer and on the internet. And now it's all but like that's a completely separate identity for people sometimes. So it did feel very organic.
Yeah.
But with that, all of that transparency, there's a lot of how do I say that? Like logging onto Threads has taught me a lot about how a lot of people in the world actually feel about certain things. That's not to say that I live in a bubble, but the algorithms go to work, and I don't know whether it's my bio or the first couple of, messages or replies that I put out, but I all of a sudden was, and I don't think I follow a single person on Threads, but my timeline is chock full of stuff. And so much of it is, um, it looks like it wants to be relevant to who I am, what I do, like it's adjacent, but it's still teaching me so much. For example, digital marketing. If you look up the term digital marketing on Threads right now, it feels like multi-level marketing. It feels like fast cash. It feels like people saying, what is this thing coming and going in the night that I need to wrap my head around and jump on the train? And being 36 years old and working in digital marketing, I thought I understood it to just be a scope of practice that includes a variety of nuts and bolts that more or less rely on leveraging the internet for exposure and engagement. And it turns out there's a whole sea of people that think that digital marketing is buying and reselling courses or buying and reselling like Canva templates.
Yeah.
I don't even participate anymore. I just see the conversations go on all day about who's trying to get into digital marketing. Every once in a while, I go in and I just poke the bear and I'll say, like, what is that, by the way? What is digital marketing? I've yet to get a response, but
Yeah, maybe you need to retrain your algorithm.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I would think I could like I'll change my bio, I'll change my photo. Like it's got to be that. Maybe the accounts that I am engaging have a large play in that. We'll
It's
figure.
also the posts you put out, so you can literally just, I see it very often, people do actually. They put a post out and they're like, I want to connect with people who, and then you just list out the qualities or the topics that you're really interested in. And then the algorithm just does its magic. I don't know how, but it
Those,
does its magic.
yeah, I've seen a couple of those really get some steam where they're just like graphic designers, copywriters, publicists,
Hmm.
and then there's just hundreds of people in the comments like, "What's up?"
Yeah, hi, I'm here.
Yeah. And so that's got to be like a battle in and of itself. That's like the quantity versus quality battle of how many hands raised of collaborators do I find on threads for people that one are truly capable of doing so. Hey, thanks.
Oh, there you go.
I think it does it. Oh, it didn't do it on your side. I think if you
Yeah,
do
it
two,
never does. I don't
it
know
doesn't.
why.
Yeah, there we
Ah,
go.
oh my gosh, you get a firework. I'm jealous.
That's
How do
all.
I turn this on?
Keep working at it. Um, Let me before I dive into any of these questions or get real specific with you, not that a whole threads dissertation isn't pretty specific, but can I just give you the floor for a minute just to introduce yourself at whatever length you see fit?
Yeah.
Cool. Fire one ready.
Okay, cool. Hi, I'm Josie and I'm a leadership and mindset coach. And I have been in business for almost 3 years now. Before that, I was actually working in corporate. To be very precise, I've been working in finance. So I have done a very, very big shift thanks to burnout, thanks to shit really going down back in 2021. So it made me really reevaluate my whole life because it was crumbling before my eyes. And I was like, okay, we need to clean up this shit and make something nice out of this again. So I really fell in love with coaching because one, I experienced it myself in that tough time and it really helped me to get out of it. But also, it is so aligned with my values and how I want to work with people because my values are impact, freedom, and authenticity. And not only can I live according to those values by doing this kind of work, but I also can help other people to be freer themselves in who they truly are, to make the impact they truly want to have, and to also just be themselves and love themselves and do everything their own way rather than just copy pasting everything whatever everybody else is saying. Um, that's something I'm quite passionate about because I feel like we are all like whole people, right? So we know what we need to know. Sometimes it just needs a kick in the butt or like some more accountability or just someone else to be like, but you already know this, you already can do this. So people are like, yes, you're right. And then they finally do it and really get the shit together. I hope, by the way, it's okay if I swear. I do say a couple words here and there. Um, but yeah, so in a nutshell, I work with especially women who are struggling with self-doubt and imposter syndrome to turn that into self-trust and doing it their own way.
Let's see. Um, Kind of a really nice segue into my next question, which speaks to imposter syndrome and really the idea of coaching as a whole. I talk to a lot of different kinds of coaches. I've run content marketing campaigns for coaching people and coaching companies. I'm always interested um, about sort of the motives and the origins as a coach specific to that sort of imposter syndrome concept. Like, at what point, or let me personalize the example. I could easily see myself if on Monday I decided I was going to be a coach, I could see myself going in circles on Tuesday about who the hell am I to be
Mhm.
coaching another person? I'm still going through it every day. I'm still learning, and it's a continuous journey. Some of us reach certain milestones of knowledge and insight and perspective sooner than others. But I guess really all of that to say, is that something that you struggled with at all? And how does one cross, or, how does one turn that corner of, yes, you know what? I do absolutely, undoubtedly have what it takes to lead other men and women in this world.
Oh, yes, that is a very good question. And I did struggle with that big times, which is why I'm very, very passionate about this. And before we dive into it, I also just want to say, from my perspective, imposter syndrome, I put it in quotation marks, is actually more of a set of very, very well-trained thought patterns and behaviors. So it's almost like habits. So you trained your brain and yourself to behave in certain ways in certain situations. So meaning that if you, for example, start something new, you're like, but who am I to do this? I've never done this before. Like, I can't do this. Like, I have zero clue. Or if you have been doing it for a while, you might also be thinking, I don't deserve this success. Like, they will find me out. Like, I'm just a thought, or like, I don't know what I'm doing really. So all of these are trained thought patterns and behaviors that you took on most likely really, really early in your life. So that could, it doesn't mean you had like a traumatizing childhood or anything by any mean. It can literally just be a teacher saying, you're not good at writing, or you are too young to do this, or whatever it might be. It could also be a parent saying something else. And the thing is that this sticks with you. And as you grow, you kind of like turn this into like a subconscious belief and make it your truth. So whenever then you get into a new situation, this comes up again, and your brain is like, well, hang on, like who do you think you are? Like, you don't know this, you're too young, you're too old, you're too this, or you're not enough, whatever it is that comes up. So just that as a disclaimer. And for me, I think the best example that I can say, and I kind of like touched on it already, is with writing my book. I wrote a book, published it not last month, we are July now, I published it in May. And it has been a childhood dream of mine, but throughout my life, I basically heard so many times, you're too young, you can't do this, no one's gonna read this, like, why do you even care? Get a proper job. Like, so many people were trying to push me down because of their own limiting beliefs, because they wouldn't believe themselves that they could do it. But I took them on. So I think the first time that the dream came up was when I was like 7 or 8, because I loved books and I loved when someone would read to me, and I loved learning to read and then read myself. So that was the first time the idea came up of writing a book. But then because of all of these comments and because I took them on, I didn't. And I was really good at writing, actually. Like in school, I was super, super good. Like my stories, they worked really, really well. Got great marks, which is nice. But still, sometimes I had teachers saying, oh, yeah, no, you can't make it as an author. Like, you're too young. Later then on, and I'm 31, like I'm not old, right? But later on, I had people say, no, you're too old by now. Like, you can't start writing a book now. And I'm like, it doesn't make sense. Like, am I too young now or am I too old? Like, please choose the limiting belief you impose on me. Thanks. So I really had to work through all of that and just learn to trust myself. One big part in that, which I mentioned, is going back to my values. What is really important to me? How do I want to have impact onto others? What does being free and authentic mean to me? And for me, I can very well express myself through writing. So that's authentic to me. I love writing. So that was a big part. The other part was also, it was a dream and it just didn't disappear. It just didn't leave me alone. So imposter syndrome is also overcome with basically taking a risk and betting on yourself that you can do it, and to trust that you see this thing through. It is committing to yourself, and you do it scared. Like I did it scared. When I started writing my book, I was like thinking all of these thoughts again, like they all came up again. It was like, okay, no one's gonna read this. But then the important part is here, that you rephrase that. So I turned no one's going to read this into, it doesn't matter if no one is going to read it. I'm writing for me. Like if this is literally just for me. If one person reads it, amazing. That's literally my goal. I just want to write this book. I just want to get it out there. so I can really fulfill this dream that I had, and to also know that I can bank on myself. So living according to your values, trusting yourself, doing it scared, reframing your limiting beliefs that you have around the imposter syndrome. It can also be very simple, from I'm not good enough to I am good enough to write a book, even if it's shit, even if if no one's reading it. I wrote it, and now I'm the first in my family who actually ever wrote a book. So there you go.
Very well said. So that was, talk to me about like the timeline of you writing and or publishing the book and how that aligns with you starting your coaching business. Was it around the same time? Did you start coaching 3 years ago and then the book came out a year later? What happened?
Yeah, so in terms of timelines, again, like the dream of writing a book was always there. In terms of my coaching business, I started that back in 2021 in October. So that's almost 3 years ago. At the same time when I started, so when I received coaching myself, that was when the dream kind of like peaked again and was like, hi, here I am. Like, are you finally like starting to work on me or not? Like, what's happening? And I first tried to ignore it again. So it took me another like 1 year until I started to write on one idea, but I quickly ditched that again because I was like, oh, actually, I don't want to write on that. And then a year later, so last year was it October too? I think it might have been September, October, was when I then was like, okay, let's make a proper plan. Let's sit down. Let's write this book. And I created my outline. I sat down and it just poured out of me. So within 40 days, like pure writing days, excluding weekends, I had my first manuscript. And I was like, this was easier than I thought it would be. Like, why didn't I do this earlier? But obviously because of my limiting beliefs. So yeah, I wrote my book basically in 40 days with the first manuscript. Then I went on to the editing process that took me a couple of months. And then I published this year in May. So the actual writing and publishing process in the end took me 6 to 8 months, give and take. So that was pretty quick, which I was surprised by, but also not really, because it was like all of those years of like studying and like the preparation that went into the book has already happened. So the research and everything has already happened. I already knew everything that I had to write. I just had to write it.
Right.
So yeah.
All right. And so when you started the coaching program, did you have a clear vision upon launch on what that looked like in terms of the type of coaching that you offered and who you offered it to and the framework of how it worked, you know, one-on-ones, groups, by the hour, by the month? Like, did you figure all that out before you launched, or did you start pursuing new relationships and then figure out what fit those relationships?
Yeah, it was like a lot of experimenting, I have to say. Like in the beginning, I plunged into entrepreneurship and into this coaching business knowing nothing about how to build a business, how to actually do that. I only knew how to coach, and I only knew that I can coach it the best way, one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I knew what I could do, that I could do very well. So I knew it had to be an element of one-on-one coaching, but in whatever like capacity, like packages, programs, I had zero clue. So just experimented my way through it with different styles. And now I feel like I'm quite in a good space with having still my one-on-one packages. I mean, they are either fixed lengths or you do like personalized lengths. And you can also just try for like a 1 month, so you get like a taster of it, because I feel like sometimes people want to try it, but they don't want to go like all in. So they're like, can I tip my toes into this?
Sure.
And you're like, yeah, cool, come in. And also with groups. So groups is something that has been a dream. That's something I always wanted to do. I wanted to work with groups because I knew the impact could be so much deeper when working with others, because you have like this collective energy and the vibes are just on a different level. But I never did it. Probably also because I had some fears around that, or because I didn't know how to actually launch that, how to put that into like reality, how to create that. But I'm actually starting now. So August 1st, I'm starting to launch my membership, which is kind of like a group program. So that's the first time I'm actually starting to work in groups, which I'm super excited about. But yeah, that's how far we've came so far.
Yeah. Tell me more about that group membership launch in August, or for what we know of what it consists of so far. What does it look like, sound like, feel like to be in that group? What would it cost me to participate? Everything in between.
So the membership is kind of like my baby. It will be something that I wanted when I started first in my business, but also something I want now, which is why I'm like, let's create it now, because I really want to have like a supportive, truly supportive, intimate community where you can connect with others who are in the same journey and also want to like reach their goals, and they want to be authentic, and they want to have fun along the way. They want to be held accountable. They want to feel like they have someone they can just lean back on. So that's the big community piece that I want to create. And the other piece is also the core pillars around my work are leadership, mindset, action taking, well-being. So the membership will evolve around these topics. So how can you be a leader? How can you like improve your leadership as you are running your business? How can you work on your mindset, like moving, for example, from fixed mindset to growth mindset, or to shift those limiting beliefs? Action taking, which is the biggest part. And I'm always pondering on this, like you can work as much as you want on the inside. You can improve your mindset as much as you like. If you don't put in the action, you will see nada. You will not see any results. So that's really important. But also because of my own experience of burnout, well-being is such a crucial part of it. So it's really a mix of all of these core pillars that help me to completely change my life, getting out of burnout and everything else. So we will evolve around that in terms of like workshops and coaching calls, kind of like mastermind style group coaching calls. There will also be guest expert sessions every now and then. You have like a private chat community on Discord where you get challenges, you get just access to the whole group to to share whatever you want to share, to vent, to cry together, to laugh together, to celebrate, to be angry about failures, to learn from failures, whatever is needed that needs to be shared. And you also get like a resource kind of like hub. So it's called the Best Selves Hub, where you access like some foundational trainings that really help you to just get to know yourself, like create that self-awareness that you need in order to build upon and really make changes happen. And you also get like meditations, obviously, again, because of the well-being part, and loads of more things. Like there's so many ideas that I want to put into this membership. And the best part about it is I feel like it's basically like a gym membership. So the price is not that steep. It's literally just 50 quid a month for the normal membership. Or if you want to go VIP and have also like one-on-one access to me and a private chat to me and sessions as well, then it's 99 quid a month.
No. How about the one-on-one sessions? How often do you find yourself doing that?
So for the membership or in general?
Just in general, like how big a part is one-on-one of your program?
So in general, like one-on-one obviously is like its own program. And that's like my main kind of like business, because I love working with clients one-on-one. In terms of the one-on-one part for clients, it would be, for the membership, it would be up to 4 sessions a year, but that they can just choose and like plug and play as and when they need some more support, some more in-depth tailored support.
I like the group approach. It reminds me of when you talked about the group energy, it reminds me a little bit of how that can be helpful in the fitness realm. Like it's one thing to exercise by yourself, it's another thing to have a trainer and be exercising alone. And then there's something really special about having a trainer or a coach and then sharing space with a group of people who there's two sides to it. There's the the downside or the past or the present, and then there's the upside. The downside being group suffering. We're all here dealing with or experiencing something that we want to overcome in the fitness realm, whether it's body composition or just genuine health or anything in between, right? There's something really special about working through the muck, not alone, that can be a big contributor to that. And then on the other side, the bright side is like we're all pursuing the washboard abs or pursuing the whatever it is we're after. So in a less and less interpersonal world, an opportunity like that to connect with people at all is important, let alone connect with like-minded people who are in a similar situation to some degree, can be extremely powerful. So when you got started with this, what were some of the, can you think of like a misconception maybe that you had going into it, saying, oh, Josie, coaching is going to be like this, or I'm going to have to deal with this, or that part's going to be so hard, or this part's going to be so easy. And then you find yourself getting one foot in the door and saying, holy heck, that is not what I thought it was going to be. Anything come to mind?
That is a very good one. Let me think about that.
Yeah.
I think one of the main parts that I didn't think would be this hard is not necessarily anything to do with the actual client work, because that's my zone of genius. That's where I'm just like, I can do that. Like there's no doubt, like the sessions are great, clients get results. But I feel like the hardest part is more around the behind the scenes of the building a business, entrepreneurship in general. There's so much that goes into it that you do not see. No one teaches you entrepreneurship. Like you're teaching it yourself. And there's just every single day you're figuring something out, like something new. You're like, okay, this is a new platform that I have to use now, or like this is a new website, or this is a new process, or this is something else that I have to add. So, oh, I didn't take into account that. So I think it's just the amount of new things that you take in is crazy. But at the same time, it's also a blessing in disguise, because you're learning so much. Like I've been learning so many things that I've never even would think about in a corporate job.
Yeah.
So I'm just like,
they're all tools and
well,
they're all utilities, right? Like it's a lot to think about, but every one of those things, whether you deem it to be so or not, is potentially valuable to you and your empire, right?
yeah. And it's also really fun, actually. I have to say, it's very fun to experiment and try out different things, or to get stuck in like, okay, how do I build a website? Especially if you know nothing. Like, you just play around, right? And you're having fun with it. So there's a really fun element to that as well, even though it can be exhausting at times.
Totally. Some people get a job and have that job and they do that job only for the rest of their professional life. And the only learning that they do is when they go home and throw on the television, or when somebody at the dinner table tells them a story about something else that happened. So, it's nice and it's a luxury, yada, yada. I would also stand to reason that there has to be some degree of mental, emotional health associated with bending and flexing your brain and learning new things, or at least exploring new things and not letting, the world around you pass you by, kind of thing. What's one of your favorite entrepreneurial tools that you're using now, like something that you weren't before, AI or scheduling or anything in between?
My favorite tools, it's definitely not ChatGPT. I'm actually kind of like on a bad side with ChatGPT. I don't like it. My boyfriend keeps recommending it to me, and I'm always like, I really don't want to use it. Like, I don't know, it gives me the ache for some reason. So that's not on my list. But what definitely is on my list is ClickUp. It's one of my favorite systems.
Okay.
And I'm sure I'm not using it to its full extent, but in terms of just providing me with the structure and kind of like brain dump opportunity for everything that goes into a business. This has been game changing because I have my business plan in there, my content plan, content bank. I did my book launch with that as well, with first dumping all of the ideas, then putting them nicely into place, like, okay, when do I need to do what? So it really helps me to just stay more organized
Okay, so
and
it's like a
structured.
scheduler.
So it's not necessarily schedule, it's more like a very fancy to-do list.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know Monday?
I do know Monday. Yeah. I've
Is
been
it
using that actually in my
kind
old
of in
job.
that realm, or
Similar. Yeah, you can have like different views. You can obviously also like have different boards where you have like tasks in the status of started, not done yet, or done, whatever, or you can also assign people. So it's a very flexible tool, and that's why I'm saying I'm not using it to its full extent. For me right now, it's like a very elaborative to-do list, but it's been very, very helpful.
I've never even heard of it. I'll check it out. And how about podcasting? How much is podcasting or content in general a play on what you do? How is what's content marketing like for you?
Podcasting definitely is very big for me. I released my podcast or started my podcast beginning of this year, so end of January. And even though I was very scared at first, I'm loving the process. And I do have to say, I think it helped me a lot to also just get more comfortable with sharing and speaking, and just also sharing like authentically and not feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm so awkward. Like I know
Everything's
that I
gotta
can
be
be
a
awkward at times.
presentation, right?
Yeah, but it's like, it's fine. So it really helps you to increase your skills, how you portray yourself, how you present yourself in general. So that has been a huge thing for me to grow myself, but also obviously grow my audience and to provide more value and have more impact for my people, which has been really, really enjoyable.
Absolutely. A couple of podcast relevant resources that I've learned about are, well, Threads apparently is a great way to connect, but
Yep.
matchmaker.fm. Are you familiar?
No,
Yeah, write it down.
I write that down.
There's also a resource called Pod Match, and then
Mm-hmm.
there's a resource called podcastguests.com.
Mm-hmm.
I think Pod Match requires a paid plan. The other two do not. And it is thousands of people who either have their own program that are seeking guests, or people who are exclusively guests seeking programs to collaborate on. A full profile. The one includes like their social handles. There's a form right there where you can send them a line real quick. So I've taken tools like that and moved away from, I still very much have organic interactions like the one we had, or sometimes
Mm-hmm.
in person, that turn into podcast collaborations. But as more and more people take on the space, as podcasting goes from being what the heck is a podcast to everyone and their mother has one, it becomes our responsibility to kind of zero in on the best fit for collaboration. And those are a couple of really healthy resources for doing so. Are you repurposing your content or using like clips from your podcast to market on social and stuff like that?
Yes, it is such a good way to obviously like take snippets from the podcast and to just repurpose that as a reel. I also write blog posts from the episodes. So yeah, it's been great. I also use actually chapters from my book to make a podcast episode out of it.
How do you mean?
So I would just take my book and be like, okay, I want to talk about this chapter today or about this topic. And then I do like a
Oh,
condensed version of my chapter. And then obviously I'm like in the podcast, if you want to know more in detail, then read my book.
right. I love that. Great way for you to elaborate on each concept or each chapter or whatever it is, and
Yeah,
still serves as a meaningful and insightful podcast in and of itself, but also it's easily deemed a sales or marketing tool, as it is the gateway to, hey, this has been a slice of this pie, which you can buy on.
exactly.
Super cool.
Exactly.
What's next for you? What's on the horizon for your coaching business? Obviously, we've got the group plan launch in August. Any
Mhm.
other big hits on your fancy to-do list?
Yes, I need to translate my book into German, and I need to also record the audio version.
What's that process like? You're gonna have
I
to,
have zero clue.
you speak any German?
Well, my mother tongue is German, so yes,
Okay.
I will translate it myself, but I need to figure out how I can. Well, I guess it's the same process as with the publishing of my normal book in English, obviously. But for the audiobook version, I have to figure it out. I have zero clue how to do that. So that's one of the other things, again, in entrepreneurship that I get to learn and dip my toes in.
Well, you could absolutely do, there's a couple of different things that come to mind, but like you can always go the traditional route of hiring a voiceover actor. There are tremendous tools right now for what is the one that comes to mind? Descript. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the many tools out there now that allow you to create a voice profile. So you could, for instance, have someone who has given you the right to do so, but you're going to have them, speak into the program for X amount of time, just reading whatever it is they're reading, develop a voice profile, and then you could potentially take that voice profile and, after having proofread your German edition, copy and paste that text into this voice profile. The tonality and the inflection may not be as dynamic as you might like it to be, but as I say that out loud, it's going to be an audiobook. I don't know how dynamic it would be anyway, unless your writing style is like exclamation points all over the place.
It does have a few.
So I don't know. If we got to pick and choose our battles, that could be an option.
That's very true. That's very true. I do think I will probably read it myself though, because I like it.
Okay, cool.
Hmm.
All right. I got a couple of minutes on the line here left with you. I'd be remiss to not ask you to let us all know how we can get in touch, learn more, sign up, social media handles, streaming platforms, and .coms and everything in between.
All the good stuff. Well, you can literally find all of that with just my name, Josi Dumont. Instagram handle is Josi __ Dumont. Website is the same, josidumont.com. LinkedIn is the same. YouTube is the same. My podcast name, very uncreative. It's the Josi Dumont Podcast, about leadership and mindset. So yeah, those are all the ways you can find me. So just literally Google for my name and it will show up.